Welcome to the O Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from thy same mother, Mike Smith.
Trouble, trouble, toil, and trouble.
You know, I don't even know where to begin. We should have hit record a couple of seconds earlier because we were some juicy
to hear, yeah, so people could hear you
some
throwing profanities at me.
Juicy material for our Patreon members. So it's January 21st when you're getting this episode. This is going to be a very tragic episode because we are in fact reviewing the recently released film, The Tragedy of Macbeth from Joel Coen, which is currently streaming on Apple TV. Just started streaming on the 14th of January. Had a very, very limited theatrical release.
Did it have a theatrical release at all?
Yeah, it did. It came out on Christmas, believe it or not. So, but
not to be confused with Macbeth from Roman Polanski.
Which, yeah, and you've mixed up your. It's great. You found the Citizen Kane poster for the O Brothers Studios. I'm liking that.
That was from the opening where they showed it in 4K in the theaters, and we both missed it.
Now, what's the status of that 4K release?
It's here. I have it.
Okay.
You're talking about Citizen.
Yeah, Citizen Kane.
We might have, yeah. Although just yesterday, you know how the one DVD was defective?
Yes.
I just got the new DVD.
Not like just yours. This was like a mass
the whole
production.
And it was really a useless DVD because all it was the movie, which you get on 4K.
Right.
And anybody that's going to buy that box set is buying it for the 4K, I think. Why even have the Blu-ray? But anyway, so now I have it both on Blu-ray and 4K, and then there's a Blu-ray extras. Yeah, so it's a 3-disc.
I noticed you replaced, my top 5 film, Empire Strikes Back.
I did on purpose.
It's
on purpose.
That's all right.
I was thinking the new studio's coming like next week.
I know.
You can put up Star Wars, and then
we've got a delay. When you're working with these contractors, things take.
When you're working with the O Brothers, it's got to do things right.
Got to be perfection,
or hit the road.
That's right. So before we get deep into the tragedy of this episode, for those of you that are not currently following us, make sure that you do. And the easiest way to find all things O Brothers to go out to our official website, which is B as in brother, podcast.com. That's ohbpodcast.com. And you can see we're sporting our season 3 O Brother mugs. Yeah, pretty sweet season 3 mug. So this is our second episode of season 3. I'm pretty excited because we got, you can find all things O Brother out on the website. I want to again thank everybody who's subscribed to our YouTube channel. We've seen growth there and very much appreciate that. So if you're not subscribed already, please go out to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Doesn't cost you a thing. Give us a thumbs up on our videos there so we can get this content out to as many people as possible. But I appreciate those that have subscribed already. And we just recently launched the O Brother Podcast Patreon page. So we'd love to have you guys join us out there. Just go to patreon.com/O Brother Podcast. And we've got all kinds of content, some extras,
surprises, and
things
we don't even know about.
I'm excited, and it's still growing. It's still taking shape, and so we'd love to have you join us out there with the Patreon community, support the show, and get some extras. I was putting up. Matter of fact, speaking of tragedy, so let's get into this a little bit. I got several tragedies that I want to talk about before we get into this movie. One of them we referenced on a previous episode that I don't think ever made it to air. But if you become a Patreon member, you will get access to this clip that never made it to air, where I talk about our murderous great uncle. Remember this conversation?
I remember. This is a while ago.
This is way back in June. We were doing a review on Luca.
Right.
And the whole Italian thing came into play. And I started telling the story about, and you were asking at the end of that episode, I got to see, because I said I've got newspaper articles from the incident.
Right.
There was like an all-out manhunt and all
Right.
kinds of things through town. This is a series of photocopies from the local paper back home about the incident.
I mean, we're
And
some serious Sicilians here.
it's fascinating. Yeah, it's a very Sicilian read here.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'll put some of this news article up on the Patreon site as well. But
And I was hearing this for the first time
yeah,
while you were talking into the microphone.
yeah, it's fascinating. I hadn't seen the clip probably since we recorded it, so I said, "Oh, I found this bit," and I thought, "Oh, that'd be good to share it with our Patreon members." So I put it up there, and you can get access to it there. If you,
And then
if
the
you go to
next
Patreon.
episode, the FBI will crash in.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're calling it, I called it Oh Brother Podcast CSI edition. So that's one tragedy. The next tragedy, we've got a lot of folks that support the show, and we try to reciprocate in kind and also
Right.
show support. And recently we had both scored, we were fortunate enough to score some merch from one of our pals, Saute J, with the
Thanks to you.
Yeah, that's right, with the Saute Self podcast. And so he's got a line of merch to promote his show. And if you haven't checked him out, make sure that you do that. We'll have Kelly Hammond, who's our new production assistant. Kelly's going to do something fancy with giving a shout out to Saute Self podcast. But Saute sent me this mug that, I that I had won. And so it came in the mail, and you can see it's a red Saute Self podcast mug. I'll turn it around.
Colors.
Here
I've
for
seen
you.
those colors somewhere before.
Yeah, it kind of rings a bell, a little bit familiar.
I don't
but,
know where, but
it's interesting because it's kind of like it's a Tumblr edition, if you can see. It's one of those ones without the handle.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was interesting because inside he
Yeah.
had all kinds of Saute merch. He had all kinds of stickers in here.
Right.
There had to be half a dozen stickers. Well, unfortunately, things aren't always as they seem. And I thought,
Yeah, you got it all wrong.
Yeah, well, as I looked deeper into this mug,
Yeah.
did a little investigation.
There's
Okay.
the handle.
There's what I discovered was I didn't realize it, but there was a thing of instructions in here. What you
Build
do
it-
is
yeah.
you take the Saute stickers
Right.
and you adhere them, and that you create. So it's kind of
Right.
like a DIY situation from the
It's a build it
Saute.
yourself mug.
It's
Now-
like Build-A-Bear, but it's Build a Saute South mug.
Now I got a box from Saute South as well,
Did you?
and I'll show you.
Did yours
because-
come to a tragic end as well? Or?
Well, mine's a little different than yours, but I think we'll see what happens. Of course, the first thing you have is the very heavily wrapped items.
Yes.
And then he sent me, of course, the complete box set of John
Wow.
Cassavetes.
That's nice.
Thanks, Saute, for that.
That's awesome.
But see, this is where
He's a hell of a guy.
you messed up. Is I got the special Rubik's mug.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, so you take the Rubik's mug and you gotta do, these things are crazy. You gotta
Well, I
put 'em
mean,
in-
you
put 'em
were
in the- and then bing. See, I could do it really fast, like the 1
wow.
second.
You were
thing.
always good at that, like back in the 80s with the actual
Yeah.
Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. That's
And then in
impressive.
here, I got my sticker, so I didn't need to use them.
Wow. Saute, I'm going to want one of those Rubik's mugs, just FYI. So I would expect to see that in the mail pretty soon.
And the Cassavetes box set, isn't it? He can pick that up for you.
I would like to think that's going to be in there as well. So I'll keep
Yeah.
an eye on the mailbox. All right, that's a plenty of time on the Saute bid. All right,
we
let's just-
overshot the Saute
we
bit
overshot
there.
it, yeah. And then just to wrap up the tragedies, you want to talk about this one, or do we just
No,
maybe
let's put
it
that
speaks
one
for
away.
itself, huh?
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's all you need to do.
So now let's get to the real meat of the episode, which is the
Right.
tragedy of Macbeth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is of course based on the William Shakespeare play, obviously. Is there anything that you want, I don't know, how do we intro this one so we can talk about it?
Yeah, I can do an intro.
Very simply,
but
very simple.
You should know this. People should know this
Right.
from high
some
school.
period in school.
Yeah, I mean, this is literally taught in high school, and
Right.
and I've never done this play, but I've done other plays, but this is a good one. It's one of his shorter plays, maybe his shortest, and even though it's in 5 acts. So it basically starts out with there's a battle going on that's headed towards the king Duncan and of Scotland. And he's concerned, because they're coming for him basically. And Macbeth, along with his Banquo, which is like both guards of the king, they strike up a battle, win the battle 2 against how many? That's Act 1. And the king's pleased. The king says, bring Macbeth here. He's going to be rewarded for this kindly, et cetera, et cetera. Goes into Act 2, where Macbeth's, well, first in Act 1, this is
his shortest play, you said?
Yeah, and I'm only going to do like the first couple of acts, because then it'll lead into the story. No, in Act 1, the most significant thing that happens in Act 1, and I kind of gave away a little bit with the toil or trouble line, but they come across this creepy witch. Turns out to be 3 witches that prophesize on the 2 of them that Macbeth will someday become king of Scotland. However, Banquo, his descendants, will then take the throne for years and years and years. And
it's his son, Fleance, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's in this version, that's the one son we see. He has more than one son,
right? But
that's his youngest son. And so that's, Banquo doesn't really think much of it. It's 3 crazy people, and they turn into crows, and shot fantastically. This is the best movie version of that. Okay. So anyway, I
get distracted.
Macbeth doesn't take to this. I don't know. He sees it more of a slight. I get to be king. That's it. First, before he becomes king, he has to become Thane of Cawdor. And he's like, that's it. And then he's going to have his kids this isn't right. And he doesn't really share it with him. And then they go back to the village. He meets up with his wife, played by Frances McDormand, Lady Macbeth. And then the real crux of the play gets going.
Yeah. So they hatch a plan to kill the king.
When he comes this is in Act 2. Right.
When he comes to visit. And, that sets off the most significant chain of events.
Right.
So yeah, it's Denzel who is classically trained. Like, this is right within his wheelhouse.
Right. Which I didn't actually know that, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I'd once or twice on Letterman, I know it had come up in the past with, some of the interviews he's done on there. But and Frances McDormand, who you mentioned, and then Kathryn Hunter, who in some respects steals the movie. She's just fascinating. I wasn't as familiar with her work until I was kind of researching this a little bit, and that she's referred to as a shapeshifter because of the way that she's able to use her body. And
you mean in real life?
In real life.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of that.
Because when you see her,
You wouldn't believe that it's her. You think
Exactly.
this got to be some vis effects or something,
Exactly.
but it's not. It's
Exactly.
her.
Right.
And so she was just fascinating. Her voice, her vocal range and the way she uses that is just phenomenal. That coupled with, you got a director like Joel Coen
Mhm.
to take advantage of that skill too. It's kind of mind blowing. So
And to shoot it in black and white was just brilliant. It's
it
just
was. And you know what I found fascinating was everything they were wearing
yes,
was black and
white.
white.
Yep.
I mean, that's genius.
I think there was some slight color in Frances McDormand's outfit.
One of her dresses, yeah. And you probably, like me, for those of you that watch this on Apple, there's a nice 13-minute plus
Yeah, it's kind of
behind
short,
the scenes thing, but it's
but
nice. Usually,
I hope we're getting more
yeah,
when this comes to.
yeah.
I hope they have not done a Criterion disc yet.
Hmm.
The Coen brothers, and they do very little extras on their videos.
Right.
So I'm hoping, because usually do you remember when Mel Gibson did Hamlet?
Hmm. Yeah.
That totally, I had done Hamlet before that. I didn't know what I was saying. I was just going by the director. Okay, make it like this, say it like this. And then Mel Gibson did it a theatrical version and would tell you what each line meant. And that's really how you almost have to read Shakespeare to really appreciate the language of it. And I did Cyrano because you helped me get ready for that. And even though that's not Shakespeare, it's very similar as far as the
Kathryn Hunter
rhythms.
did that as well.
Well, was she
Yeah, and
in which version was she in?
Well, I don't know. I mean, she's performed at the Globe a lot,
Right.
and
In London.
correct.
I ironically worked at the Golden Globe.
The Golden Globe.
The
Kelly,
old Globe.
mishap counter?
I know.
Let's see if Kelly can bring in a mishap
And
counter
I worked
here.
there. That's what's
Bing.
sad. I worked at the old Globe
Right.
in San Diego and just loved it there. I mean, and it's a mirror image of the Globe.
And then you went on to work for the Oscar Myers after that, I think.
Yeah. Then hey, that's Slicer, man. Gotta slice
I
him
wish
thin.
it was an Oscar Mayer wiener. So yeah, she studied at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, where she's like on the faculty or something there. She's a director or something there, like an administrator there. So, she's obviously classically trained as well. But yeah, the black and white was pretty stunning.
You can tell everyone in this play has done Shakespeare before. Everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no question in my mind.
I think that's going to be the thing about this film is you got to really be up for it. This is not going to have a mass appeal.
This isn't Shakespeare in Love.
No. But with Ben Affleck.
Right. And Gwyneth Paltrow. This isn't that.
No.
You're not going to be spoon-fed the story.
Have you watched the Michael Fassbender?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't. I want to see. There's, I've seen the Orson Welles one years ago. But Michael Fassbender wasn't that long ago. It wasn't. 2017.
Just a couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So
and that's pretty fascinating too. It's very different, but this is such a unique take on it visually, but it's obviously this stuff is hard to consume anyways.
Yes.
And so I just think you got to be up for it and willing to kind of commit to digesting it in the way that
right. For
watching
me,
it with the subtitles, without question.
Me, this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. The way it's shot in black and white,
right?
The way, and we know how good they do black and white from The Man Who Wasn't There. So I knew that was going to be a thrill, but to see it, how they stage some of the scenes where she goes in and out of the light,
The
and it's
cinematography
just,
was
oh
phenomenal. And
man,
this was, I was shocked to learn this was all on sound stages.
yes,
That
yeah,
when you see it is that's
because you think it's
incredible.
outdoors.
Right.
I mean, and there's a lot of smoke, but it isn't like, what was the movie we watched where, oh, was it The Fog, where we were
Mm,
making fun of it? You could tell, turn the fog machine on, and all
right.
of a sudden the fog comes squirting out.
Yes.
This isn't like that. This is like really, it's just beautifully done.
It is beautifully done. The score was something too, which was Carter
Mhm.
Burrell, who's been kind of he's done, I think, almost every
Yeah,
Coen Brothers movie that's out. So it's
right.
another long time collaborator. But this is the first time. Did we mention the first time that the Coen Brothers have gone it alone? I don't know if we mentioned
We
that at the
didn't
top.
mention it yet. I was going to mention it because, and I think I know why, unless you know why. Do you
No, I
know
don't.
why?
No.
I think the reason is because Joel and Ethan have done all their movies together in some form.
Hmm.
Joel usually directs all of them. Ethan does a lot of the writing, but I think Ethan is so wrapped up with Westworld on HBO,
Mm.
and that is a gigantic production that he's doing.
With the forthcoming season. Oh, I
Yes.
didn't even know that.
So I think that, he's been working on that so much with his wife. And here we have Joel working with his wife, Frances
Mhm.
McDormand. I just think they're kind of separate from each other right now. And probably when Westworld is finished, and I don't think it's going past 4 seasons,
Mhm.
I think we'll see them, back together and another blockbuster. But man, did Joel, and again, we're speaking, I don't know what percentage of our audience is going to really be up for
I think,
Shakespeare.
well, this is one of those where it's a master class in filmmaking.
Yeah,
So if you're interested in it from that side of things, it's an absolute must. Obviously, if you're a Coen Brothers fan,
right.
I suppose it doesn't seem a bit out of step with some of their other films. If you really go down their resume, I mean, it's
Well, if
obviously
you
there's elements there,
right, right.
but I don't know that you would
But if
pluck
you
this
go
one out
back,
immediately as that's Cohen's. Well,
yeah,
and it's
if
Cohen
if you go back to
singular,
watching Nick Cage and Raising Arizona, which
right?
is the first Coen Brothers movie I saw in the theater. And
Hmm.
I was with a friend of mine from Disney. We were at this theater in Orlando at the Promenade. There was maybe 4 people behind us. Not a snicker, not a nothing. They walked out about halfway through. Meanwhile, her and I were just,
Soaking it in.
we were just laughing at every scene with Nicolas Cage and your favorite actress, right?
Holly Hunter,
Holly Hunter.
she's great. Yeah,
So, but if you've seen that Coen Brothers and compare it to this Coen Brothers, you're like, what? Of course, it's
right,
only Joel, but still.
right. Yeah, yeah. No, but it's visually stunning. It's only what 105 minutes or something.
I'll tell you, when it ended, I'm like, I was waiting because there's so much more
Yeah.
to Macbeth. There's the battles that they didn't show,
Hmm.
other than one battle with a one-on-one battle with Macbeth
Hmm.
and somebody. I think was it Macduff, or no, it was one of the king's servants. So that's the only battle we see. We don't see a big battle. He sets it up.
Hmm.
There's a famous battle in Macbeth where they use trees and they disguise themselves as the forest.
Right.
And they do this on stage really well.
Hmm.
So you see the forest moving and it really freaks Macbeth out. He's like,
Hmm.
is the forest moving towards me? He's slow, it's the tragedy of Macbeth. And he's going out of his skull at this point, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, it's really. We talked about Denzel before on the podcast, and he's just
Yeah.
He's fascinating to watch. And there was a few times where I was waiting to say, I'm King Kong up in this.
Yeah.
It's like there's still some, air of Denzel in there, no matter what he's doing,
Yeah, that's he won an Oscar for that, what you were just saying.
for Training Day.
Training Day,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Which
So you think, his resume
Oh.
and the diversity of the things that
we
he's
didn't
done.
like his last movie with
Right.
Jared Leto. We didn't like it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was okay. It just wasn't really.
The little
And
things.
yeah, we were both pretty surprised
Mhm.
that it fell a little flat.
And I think it's less Denzel, right? It's more the movie around him and the
Yeah.
story, and but yeah, and Frances McDormand. I was so pumped to see the two of them opposite each other on screen. That I could watch for hours and hours and hours.
So come award season, is this going to get any look at all?
I think
Or
it
is this
will.
just going to be.
I think it will. It's funny you say that, because I had I couldn't help myself, but I had to send a message to Johnny Durango.
Oh, okay. Has he
Great.
seen it?
Not yet, but he plans
Okay.
to. And we talked with him previously about black and white movies and
Yes.
how the Academy tends to look at those. So I was curious to
Right.
see, but I'd just be curious from a cinematographer standpoint what his take is on it. So I said, "Oh, you're going to have to let us know what you think of it when you see it." But it's visually stunning. I wouldn't expect anything less from a
I'll
Coen
be
or the Coens.
shocked. I'll be shocked if he doesn't like it, if Johnny doesn't like it.
I don't
Because
know.
it's not black and white just for the sake of being black and
He was
white.
wasn't he lukewarm on what was the black and white one that we were talking about with Gary Oldman? Mank,
Oh yeah, but that
right?
wasn't that good.
Well,
That was black and white for the sake of black and white, because it was back in the time with the battle between
right.
him and Orson
Yeah,
Welles, and
right.
that probably didn't need to be in black and white. It was basically a timepiece.
Yeah,
But when you see this is, and if you don't like Shakespeare, if you don't want to go and be like, oh, I don't want to have to try to figure out the language, watch Man Who Wasn't There by the Coen brothers, because that's in black and white and it's stunning.
Yeah,
Just stunning.
yeah. Again, that's it. I think you're going to have to be willing to
Right.
commit
Know
to
what
it.
you're going in for.
Know what you're going in for. Yeah, not Shakespeare in
And
love. That's a good way to put it.
yeah, this isn't this isn't like high school Shakespeare in Love where they dumb it down so the audience knows what's going on.
I don't know. You mentioned award season. I mean, I don't know beyond the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
If from the acting standpoint, of course it's great, but I don't know that is it Oscar worthy?
I'm
Honestly,
not sure.
Kathryn Hunter stands out to me almost more than anyone else.
And again, you would argue, the argument would be, well, it's a very small part, but Judi Dench,
Yeah.
ironically, was that Shakespeare in Love?
What was it, 6 minutes or something?
Yeah, it was ridiculously small, one scene.
Yeah.
And she wins.
Academy
So
Award. Right. You never know.
Is Frances McDormand going to get another one?
Which, we have our own view on the awards. That's no secret here at the O Brother Podcast.
Denzel get his third?
I wouldn't see that for this.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't
in
know.
fact, is it up for it at this point? Isn't it too late?
I don't know. That's a very good question, because it depends on the dates.
Right.
And since is this a 2021 release? Yeah,
it is,
you said
technically.
It was so I think
which is maybe why they pushed it out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So
what is it for your consideration?
Yeah. So we'll see if it shows up in the award categories. I think you'll see a couple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think people will be ticked off.
You think best director?
Yeah, they'd be like, why didn't Jim Carrey get it for, the way he uses his butt cheeks? I don't get it.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't undersell that. But it's interesting because I sent you yesterday. I sent you. I don't. You probably haven't watched it yet, but this YouTube it was an interview with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I did watch it.
Did
Yes.
you? Yeah, it's about
Hmm.
20 plus minutes. It's a pretty
Hmm.
lengthy interview, and it's basically just Matt interviewing Ben about his whole career. And
Right.
he mentioned Shakespeare in Love actually
Right.
at one point. Um, but it made me they were talking about the award show, and they'd mentioned Goodwill Hunting, which of course they won the Oscar for
Right.
back in the
And,
day.
yeah, he had said he was going to give a shout out to somebody about if he won the Academy Award, and he didn't.
Oh, right. And
And
then again
and then he won another
for
one
Argo.
for Argo, which we talked about.
Yeah, not for Argo, but Argo.
Argo,
Not to be
right?
confused with the Coen
Yeah,
brothers.
with just the letter R.
Yeah.
Argo with an A.
Argo. Was Stellan
Argo.
Skarsgård in that? Argo.
Argo.
But I forgot what I was going to mention about that.
It was about, you were talking about the interview with Ben Affleck.
Right, but I forget the
The
reason.
one thing I caught, I don't know if you caught this as a slight, but at one point, Ben Affleck says to Damon, I read it and I'm like, nobody else in Hollywood's going to do this movie. He almost kind of like, he's talking about the Tender Bar.
Oh, which
we just reviewed.
Right.
And I thought it was funny the way he said it was like, nobody's going to take this role, so I might as well do it. And I can work with George and, George Clooney. And it seemed like a slight to me.
I didn't pick up on that.
But it was very, very subtle.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
I found it interesting, and just the talk, the honest talk about the craft, and his longtime desire to be a director. And I don't know, maybe that's where I was going with it, where we talk about Joel is maybe up for best director, because that Argo won best picture, not best director.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I forget what it was up against, to be honest with you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And our take on the award shows.
Yeah.
Do away with them.
It's no secret there. So what else about the Tragedy of Macbeth here? Again, I don't think anything we say is going to be overly convincing to see it. You just, like you said, know what you're getting into. And
yeah.
But if you want to see something that is, again, a bit of a master class in filmmaking,
I wonder if younger kids, like high school age, who probably are reading this, instead of getting the cliff notes or whatever, you got to read it, because this is a very short, if you watch the one behind me, if you watch Orson Welles, if you watch the one you mentioned, they're all very different. It's the same play and some of the same language, but they stage it just picture this on a stage. This is written for the stage, not
right
the sound studio that they shot it in.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I
want to
really
know,
liked it.
When is Frances going to do a rom-com? I think we're long overdue for the Frances McDormand buddy cop film. I mean, she goes from Nomadland to this. It's like,
right.
This is some heavy stuff.
And she goes insane at one point in this, and she's walking in her sleep, and she's basically confessing the whole plot to her doctor, who's like in the other room.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And we didn't even mention like the 4K aspect to this, which I mean, you probably have your own thought on that as far as how 4K plays through the streaming versus how it might be when it comes out on the disc. But it really is striking, particularly because of the black and white.
Yes.
In 4K is like, wow, it's so crisp.
Yeah. Like I told you, when I watched Citizen Kane and got that 4K disc, I wouldn't
think you can have that reaction to a black and white film, but it's
especially one that I've seen. How many times have I seen that film?
Yeah.
I mean, when I wrote a paper for it, I must have watched it a dozen times. And then, I watch it all the time. And I was seeing things I never caught
Mhm.
before.
Yeah.
Even in the opening, it opens on the gate, which says keep out, I think. And
Mhm.
you see like a golf course and all these luxury things that were built around his
On the
house
estate. Yeah.
on the estate. Uh, what was it called? Kubla Khan in the,
Is that it?
yeah, isn't that what it's called I always think between, whether it was done, who's Citizen Kane in real life,
William
you
Randolph
know,
Hearst.
right. And
Yeah.
um, Orson Welles denied it up until his death, but come on, it's pretty obvious,
Yeah. I think
you know?
Orson would have some decent comments to say about the Tragedy of
Yeah.
Macbeth by Joel Coen. Well,
I-
yeah.
I'd love to have him see it because
Yeah.
it'd probably be, I think it'd be blown away.
Yeah. Yeah. And Citizen Kane was in 1934 or something. Is that what that was?
Yeah. And it didn't win the Academy Award because of
Amazing.
politics.
And arguably, the best film ever made.
Right. And it's on everyone's list. It's either one or two or three. And it doesn't win the Academy Award because William Randolph Hearst.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
well, if you want to, stretch yourself a little bit,
love
put
to
something.
hear from people. If you
Yeah.
watch it, throw us a comment
Mhm.
because and even go in and throw us a comment and said, sorry guys, I watched the opening and I was like,
I
I'm
couldn't
not
get
up for
past,
this.
right. Couldn't get past the
Just let
crows.
us know because it helps us. We could have done kind of a sillier movie or something,
Ernest goes
you
to
know.
New
Yeah,
York.
Ernest cuts the cheese, that was on The Simpsons. But it helps us pick the movies, like I was
Yeah.
nervous about this because are people going to watch this? Do they even care about this?
It's not really so much about that,
Yeah, I mean, but it's so good. It's just so brilliant.
Yeah, be a tragedy
But
if you don't see it. See what I did there?
yeah,
it's so clever.
yeah,
That's the kind of
nice.
material you got to get here on the Oh Brother
Hey,
podcast.
that should go in the Patreon. So
Yeah, speaking of
side.
which, so for those of you that aren't currently following us, make sure that you do. And to find all things Oh Brother, go out to our official website, which is OHB as in brother podcast.com. That's ohbpodcast.com. And again,
Not to be confused with.
not to be confused with
Oh.
the Rubik's Cube Saute mug.
I
And
dropped it. I dropped the damn thing and it went back to the cube.
jeez.
Jesus.
Speaking of shape shifting. So go out and please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. We could really use your support out there. We'd appreciate that. And again, our new Patreon community that we've got established, which I'm super psyched about. You go out to patreon.com/Oh Brother Podcast. And
what is that? Like $100 a month? $200 a month?
75.
$75 a month. That's a bargain.
75. Yeah. Yeah. And you get the free e-newsletter with that and a keychain.
You're going to be taking care of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I got that. I'm just going to regurgitate the old blogs. No, but we've got several tiers out there. Anybody that knows how Patreon works, and it's growing. We're going to continue to add things to it, and but it's so far it's been fun. But so appreciate that, and you can find us on all podcast platforms. We're everywhere, and if you get a chance, we really would appreciate if you could drop us a review on iTunes or whatever podcast platform that you happen to subscribe to. And we'd appreciate that. Like I said, all the support is very, very helpful. Trying to get the show out to as many listeners as we can. Often imitated, never duplicated, the one and the only, the Oh Brother podcast coming at you. But that's going to do it for another episode of the Oh Brother podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from thy same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.
Farewell.
Aww.